All right, I'd like to call to order the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Director meeting. It's November 26th, and it is 4 o'clock, and we're at the Carson City Community Center. Linda, could we get a roll call, please?
Mike Riggs.
Present.
Mike Jones.
Present.
Mike Santos.
Present.
Karen Aboud.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Great. If I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Right now, I invite any public comment out there. If anyone has a public comment, now's the time to come up. Seeing no public comment, we'll move forward to possible action number 5, the approval of the minutes for the October 8th, 2018 CTA board meeting.
I just have a question. I had messaged Chris. There was one correction, and that was corrected. Okay, great. I move to approve the minutes of October 8th as presented with the correction.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Hearing none? Motion passes. Next will be item number 6, a possible action, the adoption of the agenda. We're going to keep the agenda items the same. We are going to move 2 items. Item number 10 will become item number 1, and item number 9 will be discussed right after that. That'll be the only change in the agenda. Moving on to item number 10 for possible action to approve the fiscal year 18 annual audit report. Joel?
Actually, just have the honor for the last time introducing Beth Cohn. Worked with Beth now going on 6 years. She's handled the audit with us. It's been a great process. I'm looking forward to it, but Beth Cohn with Cohn Company.
Welcome,
you.
Beth.
Thank you. I believe in your packet, or Joel just handed out the draft copy of the audit, or the final copy of the audit, the bound copy. I'd like to briefly review the results for you. The first question would be, is what type of audit opinion we issued, and we did issue an unmodified, or sometimes what we call a clean audit opinion, which is what you want as board members. In addition, because it's a governmental entity, we do perform the audit in accordance with government auditing standards, and we have no audit findings in connection with that, the audit in accordance with government auditing standards. I'd like to review the results with you. I like to tell people that there's 2 sets of books for governmental accounting, because there's the government-wide financial statements, which include your OPEB or the other post-employee benefit liability, and the future liability for PERS for the organization, and those liabilities are reflected on your government-wide financial statements. But on a fund basis, which is what your budget is based on, that's the other set of books that are reflected in this financial. So I'm going to really review your budget to actual, which is more meaningful for you, okay? Let me find that. So on page, what's in your supplemental? So on page 28, is your general fund budget to actual. For 2018, you budgeted revenue of approximately $1.37 million, and your actual revenue was very close at $1,003.8, 1.39, 1.38. So you exceeded budget by $16,000. And I do round, so if you're not following, let me know. Your total expenditures were budgeted at almost $1.9 million. You expended $1.7 million, so your expenditures were better than budget. your actual results were initially a deficit of $298,000, but you transferred in, you had approved in the past to transfer those funds from the V&T Capital Project Fund to cover marketing, and that transfer was $334,000. So you almost a break even, $36,000 for the year. Most of the financial statements are the footnotes for PERS and that post-employee benefits. They go on and on. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from the board? No, I think you had me at no audit findings.
Okay.
That's always the...
I try to keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, that's a good thing when
Yeah.
we're going through this. Okay. Any concerns or questions from the board?
No audit findings is good.
I would publicly like to thank Chris Kipp. She does an amazing job for you guys. She's just exceptional, and I'd like to publicly recognize that.
Oh, thank you. She does, yeah. It's nice to hear. We think she does too.
Yeah.
Well, she'll be here shortly, hopefully before you leave. She's just making sure we adhere to all open meeting laws right now, and she'll be back in.
Okay.
Joel, do you have any comments or anything?
No, this is pretty consistent of what we've tried to work through. Year one, I think it was a learning process for both Chris and I, understanding how the authority had worked prior to us being hired. I think the last 5 years now, I want to thank Beth and her team when they come in. They've, kind of given us guidelines of that governmental accounting and what's expected during the audit process, and then with you as a board. It's been a great process. Most importantly, it protects the revenue that we're in control of. We control a tax that's generated, and it's not our money, it's the people's money, and we have a responsibility to make sure that that's protected. And Beth has been an integral part of making sure that we have all those checks and balances in place. So I want to thank you for the process, and although, like I said, this will be my last time, working with an auditor has been a pleasure, and you probably don't hear that very often, so thank you.
Wait, well, sometimes.
Well, thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your hard work.
Thank you.
Can I get...
I move to approve the Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority's audit report for fiscal year 18.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
No. Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to item number 9. It's for presentation only. A presentation on the 2018 Carson City Off-Road. And Todd Sadow, did I say that right? Todd, come on up.
Yeah, press the button.
Yeah. Well,
Push this bit.
There you go. Red light.
So it's working? All right. Board of Directors, my name is Todd Sadow. I'm here to report on the 2018 Carson City Off-Road. Thanks for your time today. This was the third year for the event. We are in a 5-year agreement for the event, and we've made some pretty good progress, so I'm excited to report back right now. James, can you take me to slide 2? So a little bit of background. So not only am I going to give you a report on this year's performance, but kind of give you an idea of where we're at in the growth of the series, the development of it, and also why we ever even thought this was a good idea to begin with. So at any time, you're welcome to ask questions. I'll encourage it. This is certainly an open dialogue. It's not intended to be mundane. So on the left there, what is the Epic Rides Off-Road Series? The Carson City Off-Road is an event within the series. It is a emerging national mountain bike series. About 12 years ago, it became evident that mountain biking was missing this. There was a void in the entire industry for a national series. And so foolishly, myself and my team set out to create one. And the Carson City Off-Road is the third event in the series. As they say, the third time's a charm. The second event that we launched didn't start well. It is doing well well now. The third event we launched here has been a screaming success from the beginning. We're very proud of that. And now we have 4 events in the series, which has progressed since launching here 3 years ago. What it's intended to be is an event weekend for mountain bikers to come together, all levels of mountain biker, from beginner to pro and everybody in between, for communities to come out and be exposed to mountain biking, even if they're not mountain bikers, to be able to see the benefits of having it in their community, and to put on a show and throw a party. Make no mistake, to throw a massive party, and we keep getting better at it, so it makes it fun for everybody. And in more relative terms for our conversation here, it's a year-round marketing vehicle that generates millions of impressions and culminates with thousands of out-of-town guests visiting your community and spending money. That's really what it's supposed to do. That's what it was designed to do, is to deliver dollars. So we have a video recap from this year's event. It sounds like you might need to extend a little bit of patience to us on the playback of it on the system.
You froze our computer.
Let's see.
So this is my first time visiting Carson City, and it's incredible to actually race on the foot of the Capitol, and the high country here is incredible. I mean, it's beautiful around here.
These views here, like I said, it's probably one of the most beautiful places in the world.
It's awesome. This town is adorable. The community all came together.
The entire downtown district closes for the Carson City Off-Road, and people love it.
It does have that kind of little Nevada casino town vibe.
It's a family affair, really. Like, you have kids races, the amateur races. It's neat.
I mean, the whole city supports us, which is great. I mean, every shop you walk into, our hotel was just, I mean, they just welcomed us all in, the whole team.
The Carson City Off-Road has been a huge catalyst in confirming, what a lot of the locals knew already, that it was a great place to live, it was an awesome place to visit.
I think Epic Rides has opened a lot of people's eyes as to what is possible here and what mountain biking can bring as far as the people that can move to a town and as far as a town economics. It can grow rapidly just because of the sport of mountain biking. It's a good thing.
Carson City really embracing endurance cycling and adventure sports. I'm so proud to have this as my hometown.
You've seen businesses starting to thrive. You've seen new businesses popping up, new restaurants going in.
The bike shops in Carson City are having record-breaking sales since the first year of Epic Rides, and that's because the locals have come in, they've seen how much fun these riders are having, and they want to get a piece of the action.
We've actually had a record-breaking year here as far as sales, and as far as repairs, we're quite busy right now.
When you promote trails and they experience one of their concerts and they're out dancing next to everybody, you're promoting a healthy lifestyle.
Hanging out at McFadden Plaza, right there, they closed 3rd Street, built a big stage there. Carson City is such a cool town. I love living here. You wish you lived here because it's so cool to live here.
I can't find a single person who's not like, oh my God, we love Carson City, the new Carson City, we love what this has turned into. We couldn't imagine living anywhere else. That's the cool thing about tourism. That wouldn't have happened if, people didn't come in and have a good time in the first place.
Okay, so a little bit of background on who Epic Rides is. When we started here 3 years ago, there were 3 of us that were full-time, and there were as many people that were part-time. So we are a very passion-driven group of people, but we've also grown a lot over the last few years. So now we're at 9 full-time employees, 8 part-time. We have 45 seasonal staff members, and together we coordinate over 600 volunteers for the 6 events that we produce annually. So I'd like to think we're small and mighty still. I co-founded Epic Rides 20 years ago. We've been chasing after this thing for quite a while, and along the way, we've developed 6 different event properties that are all standout amongst the mountain bike industry nationwide or even beyond. It's for a mountain bike producer to have an event that draws 1,000 people plus is uncommon. For a mountain bike event producer to have multiple events that draw thousands of people plus is even less common. That idea 12 years ago was very much to put us at the intersection of what we thought were trends that were going to play out. We felt that mountain biking was going to see a resurgence, and that if we started working really hard 12 years ago, we could develop a model we could take national, and we would be put at the top of the resurgence to own the market. And so far, that seems to be working. So with that comes an event productions that are very successful in contributing to local economies, drawing in significant media attention, and also has given us a tenure in coordinating and communicating and everything that goes into producing an event with all the different land agencies, municipalities, landowners of all sizes, and everything that comes with that. Everything from a land agreement deal with mom and pop that we need to pass through their backyard for some odd reason because the trail goes there, or multi-billion-dollar multinational mining companies because they happen to have a lot of land too, and we need to cross there sometimes also. So we've become pretty seasoned at the game of producing mountain bike events. So I mentioned that this was all based on a hunch that we thought mountain biking had a bright future to it, and we wanted to position Epic Rides to be at the front of it. In 2016, I reached out to Joel, had a talk, actually 2014-ish probably. It took a couple years before the first event was produced, and the timing was perfect. You guys were going through a rebranding. You were just beginning to renovate your downtown and look at what that renovation needed to look like and who your market should be. And I got to say the success that's come with this thing was, I think we knew we were pointing in the right direction. I don't think we realized how big it could be. The attendance of the event has been solid, and we'll talk about that more, but your area is exploding. This region is phenomenal, and we got to be first to market. Carson City got to be first to market before Interbike showing up, before the various mountain bike events and gravel events that have popped up around the Tahoe Basin. Peter Sagan is hosting 2 of them in 1 year, each year now. I mean, it's phenomenal how much has popped up in the last few years, and we got to be first. And as I think all of you probably know, in business, first to market is invaluable and hard to beat. So we got off to a screaming good start. Over the last few years, we've stayed busy at Epic Rides. We have the Whiskey Off-Road, which is where the model event was created in Prescott, Arizona. Grand Junction Off-Road, which is the second event I mentioned earlier in Grand Junction, Colorado. The third event here in Carson City, and then we launched the fourth event, had the inaugural year for it in October, this past October, in Bentonville, Arkansas, and it also got off to a very good start. We are also very far along in the potential launch of 2 new events in 2020 as well in other areas of the country. Oh wait, go back one more. The map is the heat map of our registrations for the off-road series this year. So when we talk about it being a nationally drawing event, there are pins that are outside the country as well. We continue to target outside the country and the mountain bike community globally. However, when we speak, it is very much a national conversation at this point, whether it's in our databases or in media coverage or otherwise, or attendance at the event here in your community. They're all very well attended nationally at this point. So going back to that, why did we do this? The expectation was that things would tip towards mountain biking. As a friend who runs one of the bigger bike companies in the industry said a few months ago, we've been going against the stream the entire time. We've been building something that people questioned why we were doing and if it really made sense. In the last year, mountain biking has gotten big. We're seeing brands re-enter the market that have been absent for years. We're seeing, all the bigger brands are pushing out mountain bike product left and right now, and completely putting road to the side, which was for a long time sort of the thing in cycling that people pointed towards. This is just the beginning. We're about to see something very big coming our way in mountain biking, and we're 3 years deep and looking down the road at this point, so we're very well positioned together for it. So just for context, a few different snippets here. Mountain biking sales increased 3% in 2017, while road declined 12%. Road's been down for over 5 years in a row. It is so far down. It's just they're not even at rock bottom yet. So I don't know when it starts to come back. Triathlon is an interesting one because after the road cycling market peaked, triathlon was on its way to its peak, and at this point, it's now on its way down as well. They're 2 years in a row of participation, or USAT, USA Triathlon, the governing body. Their membership has decreased 10 to 15% a year, 2 years in a row. When that adds up over 2 years. And then the mom and pop operator has been pushed out by some of the bigger players in the space. And so there's less triathlons available now. So triathlon is also going down. While triathlon and road are going down, mountain biking is just taking off. Alongside mountain biking is gravel. So people that were on the road historically, if they haven't come to the mountain bike yet, they're on gravel bikes. And that, I call it like the gateway to mountain biking. Because now we've gotten someone who thought off-road was dangerous and unconceivable, is now off-road and realizing that if they were on a bike with just slightly wider tires, it might even be more fun. So the outlook for mountain biking is very strong. What we didn't plan for 12 years ago was NICA, the High School Mountain Bike League, different from triathlon, different from road cycling and gravel, only mildly similar to running. We have infiltrated the middle school and high school schooling systems nationally. NICA is in, I think, 22 or 24 states and going at record pace. They can't keep up and growing into more states in the USA. But now, instead of playing football, a student in middle school and high school in those states has the option to be a mountain biker. And that's a bloodline into the sport. So where I talk about how road cycling is declining or triathlon is declining, they've got to reinvent themselves to come back. And that takes a decade or two, right? I mean, that's what we're doing. We're reinventing mountain biking in some weird way by doing it exactly like we did previously. But nonetheless, we have a bloodline. So now we don't need to reinvent it. We're strong, and we will stay strong for a long time. And we're very novel and new to the whole country as this thing gets rolled out. So the future of the Carson City Off-Road, of the Epic Rides Off-Road Series, continues to look good. So who are these people that we're appealing or attracting to your community? They're not hanging from your lamppost at 2 in the morning on Saturday. But they're certainly probably out at 2 in the morning still, some of them. So 36-year-old male is, if we had to dial it into one person, 36-year-old male. Our strongest age increments, broadening it a little bit, 30 to 49. That said, 50 to 59 and 20 to 29 are the two fastest growing increments for mountain biking. So it used to be that it's a young sport and people are aging into the 50s and 60s, and the technology in the sport is allowing us to continue to be mountain bikers. We've introduced a category, the distinguished category, to allow people that are 55 and up to compete against people in their age bracket because there's so many attending our events. And then 20 to 29 is the NICA movement, right, coming up. So now there's more kids that are mountain bikers that instead of getting to the sport at 30 are getting to the sport in their teens and then finishing college or otherwise and showing up at our events. That said, they tend to be married, have a career, have children. So they're a pretty appealing demographic. They have, I think over 53% have over $100,000 household income. Over 15% have over a $200,000 household income. They have disposable money. And mountain biking is not, it's not fantasy football to them. It is in some regard. It's their blow-off valve, right? It's their way to stay healthy. It's their way to share family time if they're riding with their kids or their spouse. It's their outlet, basically. So that fantasy might be that to people that really like football, I guess. So event attendance, let's see here. How do I start this one? All right, so total mountain bike event attendees was just over 2,200 people. We did a post-event survey. Let me take a quick step back. 2012, we had a survey done by Arizona State University's Seidman Research Institute. They've studied the Super Bowl in Glendale. They've studied the PGA tournament that runs through Scottsdale. They've studied a variety of events and a lot of other types of businesses too. We commissioned them with the city of Prescott to figure out what in the world we were doing for the city of Prescott with the Whiskey Off-Road, because we had all become kind of curious about this thing. And since then, we have taken their survey that they developed, and then we've improved upon it over the years. We retained a research company called BBC Research out of Denver this year, and had them review our economic impact analysis, our survey tool, to make sure we were still doing things doing them in a better way than we had originally done in 2012. And then they also came in and studied our social media and earned media too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. But what they told us is that our survey is phenomenal. Don't change a thing. So we take our post-event data very serious. And so these numbers are just skimming the tops of the waves of some of the stuff that we've pulled from the raw data. If you have any questions about any of this, please let me know and I can follow up with more data. We could keep you busy for a while probably, but we find it really helpful and interesting. So 2,200 total attendees for the mountain bike event that came to the community for the weekend, that were in the community. 2,100 were non-resident. So those are people that visited from outside the community, came to Carson City, spent some time, had an experience, and then left. Total registered riders, we had 906 this year. Total participating, so how many actually showed up at the start line and made it to the finish line? 762. That doesn't include the 46 kids in the kids ride, which was down. We had bad weather during the kids ride, so, happens. And then the other 22 in the clunker, which is just a free, whimsy event on Friday evening. So an important point to make about the 900 riders in the third year, our intention was to go from 600 to 900 to 1,200 to 15 to 2,000. The first year we opened to 600 riders and we filled up 2 months before the event. So the demand was undeniably there. Last year we filled up 2 weeks before the event at 900. So we grew by 30%, right? But last year we had the crazy snow. It was the most snow the area has seen on record since the first year of record keeping, apparently. When we launched the event, we had a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, which is always a good idea. We did not expect to do plan C in year 2 at all. We did it, we pulled off the event. That's part of being professional, in my opinion. And people had a good time. It was way harder than we expected as plan C. But in year 3, we didn't have the growth that we had originally planned for, and I think it's very much due to the snowpack and what we had to do in year 2. So to match year 2's numbers, I think is a success. It's important to point out, in year 2, we had a really high no-show rate because a lot of people wanted to come and ride and have the full experience, and they knew that since there was a modified course, they wouldn't have that. So to bring everybody back in year 3 in net is good. That said, the momentum we're coming out of year 3 with, no doubt in my mind, we will see 1,200 riders next year. If we wanted to go over that, I suspect that might be an option too. But I think that we also made changes to the course for this year that were exceptionally well received, and I think we have something really good on our hands. Just to leave it at that. So looking at what people did this year, estimated total room nights booked, just over 1,000. 38% stayed in hotels, 9% stayed in rental property, 87% stayed 2 or more nights. The number that stayed in hotels actually went down from last year. So we've got to take a closer look at that and figure out what we need to do to get that number back up. What we are seeing is people are migrating into rental properties too from hotels. So that's to be expected. So annual rider rates and growth, that's explaining the 34% up from year 1 to 2, and then year 2 to 3, we were net 900. I think we were at 906 versus 920 or something like that last year. An important point: the retention, the health of an event is very much centric to the retention rate. If retention is less than 30%, the event is not going to grow. and you've got to take a look at yourself and figure out what's going on. Why is it not healthy? A high 30% retention rate is very healthy. Over 35% is good. 40% is solid, and we're at 39%, which after a bad year. So that's pretty good. I think that, again, it just points towards a really strong event. 12% are from Carson City that rode in the event this year. 67% are out of state. 33% from Nevada. So very much our job is to bring people to your community. We don't ever want to see the number from Carson City over 15%. And really, as the event grows and we see 1,200 and then 2,000 riders, that number from Carson City is going to keep dropping, because we're probably getting most of the people from Carson City that want to ride in the event are showing up to ride in the event now. So then as we grow the numbers, that percentage, as a percentage of the total participation, will continue to drop. So if we have 8% from Carson City, now we're doing our job, you know? Let's see here. Some important points here. 29% of non-resident attendees were first-time visitors to Carson City. So those are people that have never been here before, and we put Carson City on their map as a result of this mountain bike event. That's helpful. 60% of attendees would not have visited Carson City if not for the Carson City Off-Road. That's an important one. That means whether they've been here or not, you're back on their radar. And who you've become, which is what we originally started talking about and thought this was a good idea in the first place for, we're delivering on that. We're delivering on the intent to bring people to your community, whether it's new or back to the community, and show them who you are and who you've become. So now you're part of a current day conversation. Off-road series ridership. People always ask us this. These events, the design is very much, the success of the off-road series is not hinged on everyone coming to every event. Each event should be able to stand on its own. And this basically supports that. The number of people that do multiple events, and the crossover between them is indicated here. 38 people did all 4 events. And I can tell you now, 37 of those are pros. And they have $30,000 purses at each stop and a $60,000 purse in Bentonville. So they have an incentive to show up, right? And then subtract 38 from the other numbers, and or that's your basically that are non-pro, that are doing more than one event. It's always fun to see them cross-pollinate, and as we grow, they'll all keep supporting each other and giving incremental increases to the registration because someone will have done an event in Arkansas and wants to see the other ones. But by all means, the success is not predicated on people doing all of them. So what is the economic impact, and what does this mean for the community? So far in our 3 years, we estimate the impact at about $6 million. This year, at about $2.4 million. And what does that mean for the bottom line? The combined municipality, your tax base saw $64,000. Based on your fee, that's about a $9,000 net. The state sees $71,000, and the total combined, of course, $135,000. In addition to what went to the tax base and what goes into the community, the events are all fundraising events as well. And with few exceptions, say a donation to NICA, the national governing body of the high school league, we donate to organizations in the community. So that $22,000 raised, I'm going to guess off the top of my mind and say at least $20,000 of that came back to entities in Carson City. An important piece to point out is we have a program called Hail the Trail. And it's a fundraiser where we give away a few bikes through a raffle, and the funds that come in to buy raffle tickets, 100% of those go to the trail advocacy clubs like Muscle Powered in Carson City in each of our host communities. And so we're then going full circle. These are the entities that oftentimes are volunteer that build the trails that we utilize. And although we're here for a weekend and we can measure this economic impact for the weekend, we want to know that we're having a good impact year-round and leaving a positive legacy. So we're giving them funds that they need to then keep improving the trails and maintaining the trails year-round. The last 2 years, the program's been around for 2 years, and I think each year we've donated around $8,500 to each club in each community. So looking at social media, and then the next slide is earned media, and this is where we brought in BBC Research to help us figure out what it is we're doing and the good news that comes with it. So the total social media effort is valued at around $83,000. These are all on industry standard metrics. So $5 for every 1,000 impressions, and then an engagement being 50 cents, and then per post at $78. Our per post valuation actually went up by double since then. We changed up our marketing team. But to keep things accurate for through the event weekend, even though this is an annualized November to November, we really just played a heavy conservative estimate on the value of this from, I guess, throttling back our August to November performance in social media. So it's reasonable to expect that to go up significantly for next year. We've sort of cracked our social media code in some way, I guess. Any questions so far? Okay. Earned media. So that idea 12 years ago, and why is this a good idea? And at the time, cycling as an industry was really marred in drama and sort of negative news. There was a lot of not great things being said about cyclists globally, and it occurred to us that if we introduced a series that was fresh and new, and we had good news to share, then we thought people would probably want to talk about it. And in some way, Epic Rides has turned into a bit of a media darling. We have great relationships with all the media. We've been banging this drum for over a decade now, and thankfully, oftentimes if we sneeze, they'll talk about it. We try to only share good news, and as a result, they cover everything we do. And it's fantastic. So with that, we had a great relationship through the events with Velo News this year. I think they churned out about 12 articles about just this event alone. So anybody that reads Velo News is very likely to have seen something about the Carson City Off-Road this year, but probably even more. We also were able to get the highlight reel posted on the rest day of the Tour de France by them on their webpage. So we've really managed to find some great relationships in the media sphere, and with that, we were able to deliver over a $75,000 return on earned media this year through the event. So these are some of the media outlets that covered the event. Pink Bike and Velo News are two of the stronger cycling media outlets. Pink Bike is a global player, and they tend to lean towards that sort of more radical mountain biker. You see a lot of stuff about Red Bull Rampage from them. Whereas Velo News is the other side of the spectrum. They are the quintessential USA cycling media outlet, and they tend to lean more towards that probably 40s, 50s cycling demographic in America. So we're covering both ends of the cycling industry with those two. Adventure Sports Journal is your go-to regional outlet. Cyclocross has a huge following within their discipline and decided to pick up some mountain biking coverage too along the way. It's always nice when that happens. And then of course, I'm sure some of these other ones are more localized. You're familiar with them. But there's also communities out there that are diehard mountain bike communities like Durango. And it's always nice when we can get coverage in some other similar sized community where they're talking about yours. We think that's cool. So this is another one from BBC Research in identifying the value of the mountain bike event attendee that's showing up and then tells us, hey, I'm very likely to come back. I had a great time in the community, and when I'm looking for a place to go ride, I'll consider going there. So in addition to that economic impact, we understand your average per person expenditure for a tourist is about $148, whereas our average per person expenditure is $598. So we're worth about 4 times as a mountain biker in your community for our event what your average tourist is to the community. 88% of the riders were from out of the area. 68% plan to return, which represents just over $250,000 value in their return visits. So then overall for the community, what is the event worth? Between the economic impact, the social and earned media, plus the return visits, we're looking at about a $2.8 million impact for the year Any questions? Cool. Yeah. So it's always good to have a report card, right? See what people think of us and what we could do better. We have a free form part of this survey, and we read all of it. And we share it across the office. We get laughs. We feel good sometimes. Other times we get an eye-opener, and it's just helpful. In this case, our report card. Let's see here. 91% of the non-resident attendees are more likely to return after having a positive experience. An important one on this slide is 30% of the non-resident riders visited Carson City in advance of the event to pre-ride the trails. So we talked about that 250,000 in future visits. This is pre-visit. And we don't quantify that in our economic impact. We haven't figured out how yet to do it accurately. But that means that you're getting a second visit out of everybody on event weekend. They've already been here once to check out the trails. One of the best things that we can do is change the trails up in the course with some frequency. By refreshing it, it helps retention, and it draws people in to pre-ride it because they all want to know what they're about to experience on ride day. And the more they can be prepared, the better ride they can have, the better their experience. So we made a big change in Prescott this year, and we saw like over 50% pre-rode the course. And just for reference, our survey tool, we use Lime Survey. It's free. You can use it too. It's nothing. It's very nimble. So we have 4 different surveys running with each post-event survey for all types of attendees, for the sponsors, for the pro rider, for the amateur rider, and for the volunteer. And in this case, we're able to ask them, where are you from? And then based on where they're from, isolate them to know if they're a pre-rider from out of town or a pre-rider from in town. So this is 30% of non-resident attendees. These are not people that live in the community and pre-rode and get factored in.
Are there plans to change the trail, the event itself, or the experience this year?
There seems to be some opportunities. I don't know if they're on our immediate horizon for 2019 or if they're 2020. But the stuff that's in the pipe right now is strong. So when it comes online, and hopefully no later than 2020, then again, this becomes the vehicle to promote that these trails exist, and this is the place to come and experience them, right? Let's see here.
Todd, I have a question. What was your sample size of the responses that you got? Do you know how many people actually responded where you're getting this data from?
I can circle back with the exact number. What I know is we usually get a really sizable response. The participants, we have some impressive loyalty, I guess.
Sure.
They're really supportive of what we're doing. And so at 762 riders, I think was the number, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw maybe 150 responses.
Okay.
And, in that neighborhood, 125.
Cool.
Which is substantial for
Yeah.
it's not 15,
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Thanks.
Yeah. Event feedback. There's one on here that stands out. I'll give you guys a second to read them. The third one, it was a really great weekend. Nevada Day was my favorite weekend here, but Epic Rides has passed it up. Thank you. Great course, well marked, efficient check-in, excellent festival and atmosphere, friendly people. The entire event from start to finish was flawless. I'll definitely be back. I guess it's fun to give this positive report. We have our flaws too, and we know what they are. And every year we make changes to work on them and make sure the experience is better and better. But it always feels good to see some of these that pop up. So looking forward, 2019, we absolutely want to grow the event to 1,200. Again, I think the potential to go beyond that might be there, but we should keep our goals reasonable. So that'd be a good growth year to go from 900 to 1,200. Regarding Mike Jones, the question about trails. So the Capitol Connector Trail has been talked about for a while. And my understanding is it's making progress. I think Jeff Potter was out actually marking the potential route on event weekend while everybody was out riding. So I don't know what its timeline is, but if by 2020 we're solid, and being the year we'd be going to 1,500, and having a stunted growth year with last year, maybe we would use that as a lever to go north of 1,500 and not quite to 2,000 or something. That trail is going to be a big deal for you guys, a really big deal. The other one is Turkey Ridge. There was a time in the beginning when we thought that that was going to go in like a couple years ago, and then it got throttled back. I don't know what happened, but it would be in everyone's best interest if it got installed. Continued development of female participation. So we were one of the first, and certainly one of the higher profile events in the country and probably beyond, to pay out equal purses to our pros, men and women. So from the beginning of having a cash purse, which is substantial, the purses that we have, to pay them out equally. And we want to continue leading the charge in that space in developing the female participation in mountain biking. So I mentioned that high school and middle school mountain biking wasn't something that we had thought about 12 years ago. The other thing is women are joining the mountain bike scene at increasing rates. Why we weren't able to make it seem like a good idea to women years ago, I don't know. But they are the number one consumer in our economy, and it would make total sense to have them at the table. We've always felt like just treating everybody equally was the right thing to do, but we also want to keep leading the charge in that area. So that's always going to be an initiative for us. And if there's anything locally that we can align with, then we're all ears. So just keep that in mind. The community concert, we made a big step forward this year. We had good attendance. We can go bigger, and we've been discussing it a lot internally, and we have some pretty good ideas up our sleeve. This might be a little bit bold to sit here and say, but we want to draw more people for the concert downtown than your downtown is ready for. That's our goal, okay? So just know that that's what we're striving for. And then new events, like I mentioned, we have 2 events in different regions. Our plan isn't to launch more events in the existing region, it's to map out the country and have a very comprehensive national series where we can crown king and queen of mountain biking nationally on all terrains across all the country, which is more diverse than any other country with varied terrains in the world. So that's a way to feature America on the mountain biking stage. We are pretty far along, and we expect to see potentially 1 or 2 new events in 2020. And then we are now going into our 4th year, so we'd also like to discuss renewal terms with y'all. We would very much like to do another 5-year term. Just for context, we aren't in this to produce an event somewhere for 5 years and move on. We just celebrated 15 years in Prescott, Arizona. We're celebrating 20 years in Tucson this year with our original event. We are going on the 7th year in Grand Junction, and very much we want these to be evergreen events for the communities to identify with, to be proud of. So we want to begin those discussions with you guys now, so that we go into the future, the next 2 years, standing sturdy. The longer these things can go, the more they can return. That's I mean, if there were ever a time when mountain biking lulled, which from everything I've said today, obviously I don't believe that's going to happen anytime soon, then we could all sit and have a conversation that makes sense for everybody. And nobody wants to be in a relationship that's not succeeding. But at this point, I can't even begin to guess what it's going to look like in 5 years. But I think it's a good news story. So that said, thank you. Thanks for diving into this 3 years ago and your continued support. And we're looking forward to next year.
Well, thanks, Todd. It was a good presentation, and I think, it's good to see your dream that you've been working on for, it sounds like 20 years or longer, come to fruition, and it's great to see that we're bringing people that really get to see what our area is about and what it's like. And so I think that's a very positive step for both of us. And now, what's the 55 plus called?
The distinguished category.
Distinguished. Yeah. Thank you. Now that I know I'm distinguished, I might give it a shot. So that's a positive for me too. I know we have our resident mountain biker on the board that I'm sure has, positive things to say.
Yeah, Todd, it's finally nice to meet you, and I thank you for bringing this event to the community. I've been mountain biking in this area since '91.
Oh, wow.
And I've grown with the sport. I've obviously gotten older. Now I'm distinguished. But it's good to see that it's growing every year, and I look forward to the future of this and what you're bringing to the table, and look forward to working with you.
Thanks.
So thank you very much.
Likewise.
Hey, Todd, I'd like to say, this is the type of event that I think is very important and beneficial for Carson. It covers bringing people from outside the area. It also engages our region, not just Carson City community, but around here. And those are some very impressive numbers. And I'm looking forward to working with you on extending this.
And I'd just like to say thank you for being here. It is a huge boost to the economy of this area, and you bring in a demographic that, as was pointed out today in our earlier interviews, we need to have. So it's important. Thank you.
Well, I think I'll go last. Bittersweet for me today. We've hired my replacement sitting in the audience, and I'm very pleased with the transition that is happening with my career, the end of my career now. And Todd, you mentioned earlier about taking risks. You and I both took a risk in each other. Going on back to 2014. You were a game changer for Carson City, and I think you know that. You've introduced Carson City and our new brand to the rest of the world, and it's been received extremely well. Earlier, the mayor sat in during our interview process, and the last thing he said to me as he left the room was, "Boy, that Carson City off-road epic ride, you nailed it with that one. That's the best thing you've done." And I concur. I think that it's been spectacular. It's been a game changer for the community I love, that I've lived in my entire life, and thank you for everything you and your staff have done. I look forward to volunteering with your group over the course of hopefully now another 7 years when you get your 5-year renewal from this board. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thanks, Joel. It's mutual. Again, the third time's the charm. We came here and with Joel's help and his team and Kurt, we really learned what we needed in a community partnership. And that's really helped us and how we approach all of our relationships with all our communities now. So this has been a special venue for us, for sure. Thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I've seen the behind the scenes and what it takes to put this together. I've worked, the first year I worked on medical sweep through the fire department, and then became a participant. But I've seen the work that Kurt puts in and everybody that comes together, and it's quite a big ordeal. So I want to thank everybody that does that. It is truly a huge thing that you guys put on, so thank you.
Got a good team.
Cool. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 7, to approve the adjusted CTA fiscal year 19 budget report. Joel?
All right. Got stacks of papers, too many meetings today, too many people coming through. All right. In your packet, CTA Board reviewed you're going to review a comparative statement of adjusted revenue totaling $469,439.14, expenses totaling $200,016.77. So going through, we'll start on page 2 of 5. This is reported room revenue through September 2018. So we're finally starting to see a little bit of the change in coming in for fiscal year 19 laps. We're at 25% of the year. Total revenue coming in year to date, the projections haven't changed. We're still at the 2.1 million. Actuals year to date, we've brought in just shy of 479,000 in revenue. That includes room tax revenue. And that breakout of intergovernmental between capital projects, V&T, and arts and culture. In addition to the room tax revenue, interest income totaling roughly just under $5,000. Continuing down, expendable revenue with our carryover, we're projecting still at 1.9 million. On page 3 of 5, you've got your intergovernmental. Year to date, we have no payments yet to our intergovernmental, but reflecting back again, you're looking at projections for fiscal year 19 of just under $190,000 going to the 1% for the interlocal agreement to Carson City. Just under $190,000 going to the arts and culture component with our 1%. We'll provide just over $35,000 to the CCPR field maintenance. That's actually a payment that goes to the Youth Sports Association in Carson City, goes back into Parks and Rec so that they can provide seasonal staffing for both Governors and Edmonds Fields. Our payment to Nevada Commission on Tourism is estimated to be just shy of $71,000. And once again, the capital projects fund for the VNT is $405,000, which reflectively will be the same amount coming back to our marketing effort that has an inherent opportunity to benefit the VNT. Year to date, 25% reporting. Our salaries and benefits are coming in at 13.9% at $77,943.11. On page 4 of 5. The heart of everything that we're doing, really no red flags. Everything that's there, the only thing that you still see is we've paid up front for the insurance coming in at $8,852. We had projected $4,000.
It'll stay.
Yeah, and it will stay there through the year. So that's another one of those that will bottom line at the end of the year within that budget line item. Not seeing any red flags at all. The two that are right at the 25% at 25.8 and 27.2 are our rent and our office equipment rental lease. And we get into the monthly expenses, you'll see that we did have a pretty high overage charge for our copier in the month, and we'll give you a breakout of what those were. Continuing down, the last one, just the power at 28.6%, and that bottom lined again last year. And reflecting back to our audit, we've set in a budget in place no differently than we have the last 5 years. We've always exceeded our revenues and we've underspent in our expenditure calculation. So I don't anticipate anything different, even with the transition of a new director coming in. I'll sit down with David over the course of the next few weeks and go over that budget preparation process so that he's up to speed when he hits the ground running. Continuing on to the last page, 5 of 5, is just the worksheet that we use for Department of Taxation. So not a lot on it yet. We'll start to see if there's any changes as we move forward. Last year, we waited until May to do any augmentations to our budget, and we augmented right at the end of the fiscal year, also in June. So I'm sure that Chris and the new director will plan on probably doing the same thing this year with you and the board. Okay.
All right. No, good. I don't have any questions. Anyone else have concerns or questions?
No. Make it. I move to approve the adjusted fiscal year 19 budget report as presented through September 30th of 2018.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? Motion passed. Moving on to number 8, to approve CTA statement of accounts payable, checks, and P-card report for September. Chris?
So we don't have a whole lot to talk about on this month. The page 204, the accounts payable checks for September 1st through the 30th. Excuse me. The first one is the P-card charge that you guys reviewed last month for $5,047.26. The next one down is the September rent for the CTA is $4,958. The next bigger one down is the Conica. This is the overage, so whatever clicks we have over the contract. This is for May 26th through August 25th, $4,456.34. Some of the printing that we did there for the overage in that time frame, we did printing for Epic Rides, we did fair programs, Rockabilly Riot programs, the Airport Open House, Jazz and Beyond, and Outlaw Flat Track events. There's others, but those are the bigger ones. Next one down, Nevada Momentum. This is for photography and content writing through the 27th of August. That one is things like Nevada State Railroad Museum stock photos and drone clips, Stewart video edits that we've been working on a video for Stewart Indian. I don't know if we have that one out posted yet or not. Okay. 11 amp stock photos and flat track races photos, among a few other things. One of the bigger ones on that one. And then the next one down is the Travelers, and that's for the insurance for the year. So that's been paid in full that's for the insurance for the building, for the storage shed, for the Willie's marketing vehicle, and if any of the employees, when they go to fairs or if we do events or anything like that, they're covered while we're there. So that's all done in full, so you won't see that one again. The next one is the P cards, and there's really not a lot of big ticket items on the P cards. This is from September 5th through October 4th. The first one there is Intuit Simple View. That's the monthly licensing for September for the app. And then they're also down again at the bottom for October. Other than that, most of them reached local. You guys already know about that one. There's not a whole lot going on. So if you've got any questions on any of that.
I don't have any questions. Any questions from the board? All right. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the CTA account activity statement of accounts payable checks, P-card charges for September of 2018.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. We'll move on to non-action items for a presentation and discussion only. Joel, I think we have the transient occupancy report. We can move on to that.
All right. So I think looking back at our last meeting, we were talking once again about the impact that the FEMA rooms had on last year. I think we're still seeing that because when you look at the revenues for the top five properties were down 11.5% for September 2018 versus 17. That's a drop of $178,845.85. Bottom line, down 10.83%. When you look at the increase, though, that we had in 17 over 16, we were up in that same time period, I think 26%. So we had such significant increases in 2017, and our comparative data is showing just back to 2017. We need to, and I think we've hired a great mind to be able to go back and collect the data to find the differences of where we would have been without those room nights associated with FEMA from last year. I look forward to working with David on that so that we can break that out. We're also breaking into our legislative session. We've always been able to show that that's about a 5 to 6% increase in our room revenues during a legislative session in the comparison years. Bottom line, if you look at average daily rate, this is the one that we haven't really seen a decrease up until this month. In September, we've had pretty flatlined, but we saw a decrease in the average daily rate in our top five properties of $8.95 a room. That's a decrease of 7.3%, dropping from $122.31 down to $113.36. So the one thing that we've been able to increase over the 5 years, we really touched on that average daily rate increasing significantly over the 5 years, while our occupancy has been consistently higher than the region, but not necessarily matching the pretty significant increases in our average daily rate. So we know that we're going to flatline at some time. I don't think we've hit that yet, but we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on that. Bottom line, going to the bottom page, RevPAR, revenue per available room. We were down across the board $3.61, down 5.5% in RevPAR. Trailing 12 was pretty much flatlined, coming in just about $200,000 difference at $20,470,517. On the back, occupancy, you can see the differences between your top five properties and your top 6 through 13. You were looking at 80.5% occupancy rate for your top 5 properties as compared to 86.9%. There was a decrease of about 700 available rooms in your top 5 properties. So once again, something we need to look to. What was the difference in the, having 700 of available rooms not being available between 18 as compared to 17? Yes.
Did that have anything to do with Hampton remodeling?
I'll have to reach out to the Hampton, but I didn't think they had quite as many rooms being involved or affected by the remodel this time. And to be honest, I didn't get a chance to really look into the room tax data to see those comparisons where in a couple of the past couple of months, I was able to take the time and look and break out each one of the properties. But I'll do the same for this report. If you look also on the bottom, our breakout, we always finish with our extended stay 28-day plus RVs. We had 7,290 spots in September that were occupied by 28-day plus and no room tax revenue. And there was 10,206 total room nights in lodging properties for 28-day plus. So, any questions?
I think you're right about 2016 being a better sort of barometer than 2017. Is the FEMA effect, did that end in December last year? I want to say it did, so we should get more back to, I guess, apples to apples.
Yeah, we started seeing most of the rooms decrease in early December for the FEMA. But no, if you look back and you're once again drawing that comparison between 16 and 18, you can see that we were up 15% in that comparison. So I think that is a much stronger representation of what our growth has been based on FEMA. The FEMA council, when you talk to the properties, they didn't drop their room rates. They collected room tax on every one of the nights, and we benefited greatly as a community for it. So, great.
Thanks, Drew. I guess grant update?
Yeah, on every month on the grant update. No new updates, waiting to hear back on what we've been approved for on our grants. We had 6 pretty quality, I think, applications in. I think all of them will be pretty impactful, most of them dedicated to micro-influencers and digital marketing and a dining guide. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the funding comes in from Trail Nevada and watching Lydia work. We've had 2 or 3 meetings now as a creative team and ready to move forward the minute we hear what we've been awarded. So. Moving now to the strategic plan, knowing that we were going through the recruitment process and looking at the level of the applicants that we had moved in, we had decided last month that we were going to postpone any additional changes to the strategic plan, waiting for the new director to put his or her fingerprint on that. And we've got a very strong tourism mind to put his fingerprint on our strategic plan. So this will come back to you in draft form early in 2019 from our new director, David Peterson. Moving down to the next is your events update. That's from James.
Thank you. What we're doing this year, considering that we're into the slow season, this is when a lot of events slow down and we prepare to ramp into 2019. We wanted to evaluate 2018 in terms of how many events we had. Some of them sports related, lots of them sports related, car shows, cultural events, and I've already started the survey process to analyze. This was something that Mike Jones and Mike Santos, you guys talked about a few months ago when you asked for some data for some of these events. And what we want to accomplish in 2019 is we want to kind of measure where we are with these events. We also want to see where it's going. If it's something that's declining or something that's increase in participants, we want to kind of know that, and the survey will help us get there. With that mindset, it also give us an opportunity to kind of figure out where we want to be. So this is more of a foundational process that we're going to go through for 2019. Joel put together surveys years ago, and so we're just piggybacking off of that. And I put a sample up there of some of the questionnaires. This one was we've already conducted a survey for the Nevada Day Powwow that took place during Nevada Day weekend, and these are some of the things that we asked from the people that participated in that. I think we roughly got 376 surveys done, so we have a pretty good sample size to work off of. I have the data, and hopefully in our December meeting I'll have more impact reports to report on that. So this is going to require a lot of work in terms of accomplishing all these surveys, but I think it's important for us to kind of know where our base is at right now moving forward. An upcoming event that we're working at is at the end of this weekend. We have the DeVille basketball tournament taking place at the MAC facility. We have estimated roughly 36 teams participating in that. Surveys will be conducted there this weekend too, for us to be able to measure the growth for 2019 as well. Any questions? All right.
I just want to say that, this is a slow season, right? But this is also a good opportunity to try to have more activity at the MAC. So, David?
I agree.
Right.
All right, am I up? All right, nice to sit in front of you guys for the second time ever. Now I actually have some data to show you instead of conceptual ideas. So I wanted to start off with social media, because it's the biggest thing that I dived in here in the last 2 months. I was really getting our presence out there again. We were very stagnant from not having someone in the position before, and I really wanted to diversify the content that we were getting out to our visitors and to our community, who are here our largest advocates. So Facebook gives us, we'll start with Facebook, go into Instagram and Twitter. Facebook and Instagram we had huge successes in over the last 2 months. This is just a snapshot. This is in comparison, kind of not really including Nevada Day, this info. So you'll see that the actions on the page and the page views are down because we had so much activity at that time in comparison. What I want you to focus on though is that reach, where we're seeing about 60,000 people in a month, and especially the engagements, which is up about 80% in comparison to the month before, and most importantly, the videos. We talked about that last meeting of how video is really king on all of social media. We talked about the tourism summit, how I think 80% of content or something like that is going to be more video related than anything. So our video engagement is up 352%, and our impressions on that are great.
That's impressive.
And I'll show you the content that really drove that success too, and obviously you can find that on the pages as well, but I'll show you what to look for. Our page likes are up about almost 500 likes over the course of since when I started until today. So we started about 4,400 likes. We're at about 4,900 at this point. I think a lot of that had to do with the giveaways that we did around Nevada Day. Really created a lot of buzz and the sharing and the liking and the commenting. It was very, very local. It didn't reach quite as far as I had hoped, but we also need to build a little bit more of our local base as well, so that they're telling their friends about it who maybe not live in the state. So here you can see organic versus paid reach, meaning that the orange bar is what you see of people that we reached because we paid for it, and the light orange is what we reached organically. Organic is great because it's free, but for me, the exposure is the exposure. So if we're getting more on a paid, affordable basis right now, which social media is very affordable at this point in time, I think we need to definitely utilize that more. And that's something that I'm working on pretty diligently to combine our digital marketing efforts in with our social media, so that we're running campaigns that are specific to certain demographic and types of people and what they're looking for, and have that work very cohesively. So this just goes to show, paid does get you a little bit more, but your content has to be solid. Otherwise, you're just spending your money unwisely. This is another example of how important events are and having those on our page. Even though we are looking for the visitor, I think that showing them what's happening and creating buzz in the city is really important as well. And I think we have a lot of outlets in the city of where the events can be found. So I try to be as inclusive as possible so that people know what's always going on. So on the top, you can see the different types of posts that we've been doing. Video, obviously, is our largest reach that you can see. We had about 7,600 average reaches, and I believe this was just in the last couple of weeks. It only lets you do a short time frame for this kind of data. But our engagement in all of our videos, you can see, is also far more significant than the others. Photos are obviously very important. The prettier, the better. And then the links that we had connected maybe to our website or maybe the V&T Railway promoting the Polar Express. That's what those kind of link posts are, where it's directing you somewhere else. And then the events are at the bottom. So in the last 90 days, we had 29 events. It reached over 120,000 people, with 7,100 people that actually responded if they were interested in going or going to the event. So that's in the last 90 days. So you can see how important it is to really just have that information on your Facebook page. And then in the last 28 days, we had 7 events posted. And of those 120,000 that we had in the last 90, 45,000 of them were just in the last 28 days, and we had 2,200 event responses. Many of that was from the Dios de los Muertos event. And you can see that here. So this actually breaks down our most popular events that we had over the last, since September when I started. I only paid to boost one event because I wanted to see how that went and put a measly $20 toward it just to see what it would do. And it definitely outperformed the one that I did not boost. And the impressions, we got about 10,000 more impressions, and our responses for that event were outstanding. And the event itself was very successful. I wish I could have attended. I'm sure Mark's going to speak to that after this, but we had a lot of people interested in that event. I think they had about 800 people total show up for that. Created a lot of buzz in the community. The Nevada Day celebration was actually a video that I posted as the event cover, so it did create a little bit more buzz. Obviously, more people are looking for that during that time frame, so that had about 78,000 impressions and 3,500 responses, and then our Passport to Downtown also did quite well. About 15,000 impressions and almost 700 responses on that. Any questions so far? Right. So more on the video. Where we got a lot of those impressions from were actually the live video I did from the hot air balloon. So talk about cool parts of your job. I'd never been in a hot air balloon before. If you watch the video, it's a little shaky. I was hoping I wasn't going to drop my phone. I thought it was going to be kind of a novelty just video to have, and it took off. More than 300 people shared it. 14,000 people viewed it. I believe it's, there's almost 4,000 people that viewed the whole thing, which is pretty rare. So that was a big success for that month. Something that I hope to continue to do and get more creative with, and do a longer one as well. Just kind of testing the waters on that one. But on the bottom, you can see the progress of when I really started posting videos towards the end of October. We did a lot more video content at that point, and you can just see how the engagement spikes on our page. All right, so on Instagram, we worked with an influencer for the first time on our end, just in-house. Her name is Amber DeBellio, and she goes by Brunette Tahoet on Instagram. She's got about 11,000 followers, lives in Reno. Someone I had mentioned before that I had been following for a while, but she just goes into the communities, does as many activities as possible to show how cool and showcase a community is, and she did a great job for us. I think there's definitely was some things that I would change and do better and work on, but I think it was a pretty cheap engagement that got us some great exposure. One thing we did was also another giveaway that we had an amazing basket, with hotel giveaways and a facial and swag, and we really put an awesome basket together that our local businesses helped contribute with. And we did that the week leading up to her coming. So she was talking about Carson City before she was coming here, not just a one and done post. So we really made sure that it was worth our while, putting her up in the St. Charles Hotel. So we did everything from the Harvest Train to the Ghost Walk. We hit the Union for dinner. They went up to Prison Hill and did the trails. So we really tried to showcase everything that Carson had to offer. And so I definitely think that was a great learning experience that didn't cost us a lot of money, but got us some great exposure as well. And our stats on Instagram, so we have grown from 2,256 followers to 2,700 followers plus in that time frame since I've started. And I do post on our stories, which are definitely a very important part of social media now. It's just going to continue to grow. So I want it to be a place where people can go back and always see new content every day and what's happening in Carson City. And so we consistently get about 250 views daily on our Instagram stories alone. So there are people who are coming back to see what's happening in Carson, and I hope that only continues to grow. So any questions on the influencers at all?
No, I think that's great. The last meeting, this was just sort of in the planning stages, and we hoped it would work. And, these influencers,
it's an important part.
By you, and a good job.
Thank you very much. Follow through is my motto. So I like to bring it to fruition. So these are just a snapshot. I know it's kind of hard to see the stats on there with the lighting, but the first picture on the going from left to right is in the last 3 months. These are the likes of our most popular content. So the hot air balloons were huge. We have people who continually tag us in posts. Our Instagram says tag us in your post or use Visit Carson City hashtag to be featured on our page, and we get beautiful photos from our fans, and it's just something that keeps them engaged as well in hopes that, hey, maybe I'll get featured. So the top left one is from Nevada Day. The other top two are from just our followers who have tagged us in photos as well. The middle one is the comments. So obviously that top left one that you see up there has about 517 comments. That was the giveaway basket that we did. We just try to keep the businesses engaged as possible. So part of the requirements to enter to win that basket was to like everyone that donated something to the basket and follow their Instagram page, and then comment on the post and tag a friend for extra entries. So as much engagement as we can get, we can. And then the second most commented one was another giveaway that we did that was on the back of the Nevada Day magazine program that was in the parade. We tried to really drive people to our Facebook page instead of just doing a stagnant non-action back cover of the program. We included a little trivia question that said, answer this. All of our trivia for Nevada Day leading up to those giveaways was all trivia related, and you had to answer it correctly in order to win. And then the very right one is engagement, and then that obviously is pretty consistent with the most liked and the most commented on.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
So how does a person get their photo acknowledged or
for me to post their photo on
yeah.
the page? They just have to tag us. So when they post it on their page, you can tag people, just like in Facebook. You can also tag people on Instagram. And so it'll alert me when someone tags us in a photo. And then they have apps that allow you to repost that photo for free. And then I always give them credit in their photo anytime that I post it.
That takes some time, doesn't it?
It's quicker than you think it is.
Okay.
It is, yeah. They category it out for you. There's a little button for people that have tagged you in that post. So there's a whole place where those tagged posts live for me. And I just repost it and off we go. But social media as a whole does take quite a bit of time and planning if you want to do it efficiently. So that I'm working on. Any other questions? All right, these are some of the stats of where you can see our people are coming from. So on the top, we are our insights for our audience, which were mostly Carson City related. 20% is actually in Reno. And then our third city is Las Vegas, which I thought was pretty cool. It is only 3%, not a lot, but it's something we could definitely grow on. So there are people that I'm sure lived here, moved south. We get a lot of nostalgic posts of, man, this makes me miss Carson City. I wish I still lived there, or I loved my time when I was there. And our age range for our target audience is 25 to about 44 is our biggest engaged audience. And we're 62% women, 38% men, which is pretty consistent across the board when it comes to tourism stats in general. And then Twitter, we got about 7,500 impressions over a 28-day period at this time, so I'm really utilizing Twitter for more news, articles, things about Carson City that are happening, and use more of the content and events to promote on Instagram and Facebook. So we don't have a ton of engagement on Twitter, but we do have, almost 4,000 followers, so there are people who are watching. All right, my last slide. I know it's been a long day for you guys. So other projects in the works, I talked a little bit about creating that paid advertising social campaign that's on more consistently, and really tying that into different categories of our dining and of our outdoors and our other major categories. So I think that that's going to be really important for us to be continually in front of people all the time and top of mind. And then obviously targeting our Californians and Southern Nevadans, which are most of our engaged audience that we're seeing outside of Carson City. Our website redesign is the next biggest bear we're going to tackle, and we're really excited about that. It's going to be quite a feat, but we're building ideas and creating the design, and I think we're all really excited to get a little bit more functioning website. Ours is very usable, but we have a lot of content that we just have to sift through, narrow down, and just make more user-friendly. And our giveaways are our biggest success in creating engagement. So I don't want it to be spammy and have too many giveaways and have that kind of reputation, but I think it does get a lot of excitement, especially when it's like Nevada-based gear, Nevada-based Carson City events that we can get them to. And that's going to be only successful if we can get the local businesses involved in these giveaways, because the more outlets that are posting about this, the more engagement and reach that we're going to have for very low budget. And I think that's something that I really want to work on, get more involved with the DBA, get to know these business owners, get in these restaurants, and hopefully help educate how important it is that we all got to work together in order to create this brand for the city, because me just doing it alone is only going to get so far. The arts and culture in the dining category is something that we're definitely working on. I've been, working with Mark a lot on just understanding more about the arts that are in Carson City, since I don't live here and only been here 2 years. There's still so much to learn, so I'm continually working on that. And I think that we've got some pretty solid content down already. And then we made some great connections at the Tourism Summit. So I really hope now that, David's in this position that we can hopefully get more tours to come into Carson City, work with Travel Nevada, and get some of that engagement instead of being a pass-through city. Hopefully we can get them on for a night. And influencers, we're already in the works with talking with more people for coming in the winter and the summer. An idea for one that we have is doing the Highway 50 ride. I actually was working with Kyle to have them start here and in Ely and have them come in the winter and do that, and then also in the summer to see what it is like in two different spectrums. And then we're updating materials in the visitor center constantly to have a more consistent brand for Carson City. We're really just sifting through that, which is taking quite a while, but exciting things happening there just for content itself. We already talked about the video content enough. That's something we're continually working on. And then hopefully by our January meeting, I'll have a more consistent plan for you, what we got mapped out for the rest of the year. All right. Any last questions?
Great. Any questions for Lydia? Great report. Thank you. Future agenda items? Anyone have anything there?
You guys have anything you want?
No. Okay. Then on G, upcoming meetings, I'd like to propose.
Microphone.
Anyway, upcoming meetings. We have one scheduled on December 10th. I'm not sure it makes much sense to have another meeting so close to this meeting. I'm not sure we'd have the content in the meeting that certainly don't want to waste people's time, especially during the holiday season. So it'd be my recommendation that we have our following meeting in January. I believe it would be the 14th, if everyone's agreeable to that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Board comments or announcements? Other than that we have, Joel, we have Joel's replacement. No one can replace Joel, but David
I think you've done a fantastic job today.
And Meeting adjourned.
More to go.
All right.
Going good.